Good morning. Happy Tuesday. I want to talk about personal evolution. This can apply to men or to women. I laid awake again at 3:30 this morning, scrolling through my phone. I saw a quote that was something along the lines of, if you're 40 years old and look at the world the same way you did when you're 20, you wasted 20 years of your life. That kind of put it in perspective. And lately I've been looking back at even in like 5-year intervals or 5-year steps, looking back 5 years at a time to look at my personal growth and how much I've grown as a person. Sometimes it's slower, and I realize that. It depends on what happens in life to force you to grow. I think when you're uncomfortable and you deal with stressful situations and life kicks your ass for a little bit, you come out of it a little wiser and a little bit stronger. There was another quote, loose quote, said, if you're in your 20s and you're not a liberal, you're heartless. And if you're in your 40s and not a conservative, you're brainless. And now that's a political thing, and it doesn't necessarily apply to everybody, but for me, it made a little sense because as we get older, we tend to think less with our emotions and more with our logic, with our brain, with our mind. And that's a masculine trait, is to make your decisions with logic. Base it off of logic, not emotion. So it made a lot of sense to me, and I look back at my father and my grandfather, their personal growth. So when I was between 7 and 10 years old, I looked up to, well, I still look up to my dad, but I looked up to my dad back then. I was like, wow, and I compared him to my grandfather. And my grandfather seemed to be much more grounded. He had a lot more maturity, or seemed to be much wiser. Now, I didn't know everything about his life back then. In fact, I probably only saw the best of it. He didn't show me the tough stuff. But he seemed to be more advanced than my father did. And as I got older, I watched my father grow to be more like my grandfather, to become more advanced. See, that was his evolution. And I'm working on my evolution, and I just wanted to do a quick video on this to make sure that, guys, we're not losing focus. If you're still looking at the world when you're 40, the same way you did when you're 20, you're missing something. And I'm not hitting it from a point of superiority, like I'm trying to say men of values, like I'm more, I have better values and I'm superior to you in my morals. No, that's not it at all. Totally not it. But we should all be in tune with where we're at and that we grow. Again, we all have values, but those values change from when we're 20 to when we're 40 and to 48 and beyond. But we should make sure that we're adjusting to life as we go through experiences to change our values. I mean, your core values pretty much should stay the same, but the way you look at life as you get older should change. You should adapt and hopefully get wiser. Like politics, for instance, I really didn't care back when, before probably 2012, I didn't really care much. And right around 2014 or 15, then I really got into it. And then as I'm older now, what the politicians decide to do really affect how our lives are. I mean, I'm not looking right in front of my face, just how it affects my life personally, but it's my neighbors, my family, the future, the neighborhood, the state, and of course the country. I think that happens with a lot of people. As you get older, you become more focused on politics. And I think lately, a lot more people are inspired to become more involved and pay more attention to what's happening in politics. So it's forcing maturity because of circumstantial difficulties, what we're going through right now. And that's kind of what I was talking about with life. You're going to hit those stressful situations where it's going to inspire you to adapt and to grow, to evolve, to be able to better deal with those situations in the future, become stronger. I'm not going to keep talking. I try to keep these videos short. I'm probably going to do a full podcast on this, maybe sit down with Rick and another guest and discuss their personal evolution, because it's kind of a big deal, and it's easy to slide through life with the blinders on and realize, oh my God, 10 years passed, and I still have the same mindset as I did, 10 years ago. I just think it's important that we all are aware of where we're at, and have we grown in the last 10 years, in the last 5 years. I mean, I think with COVID, over the last 2 years, everybody has been inspired. I don't want to say forced. Everybody's been inspired to grow, to be able to adapt to the situation. So again, Scott Rockford with Coffee Thoughts. Thanks for joining me.